Greetings, pen pals. Today's pen is the Moonman model M600S. Now, there's a significant difference between the Moonman M600, which I do not have, and this Moonman M600S, and that is in the nib. I'll get to that in a minute, but this is a pen that costs $25. The Moonman M600 cost almost triple that, so it's a big price difference. So, and we'll get to in a minute. And again, it's all due to the nib. This pen is what is normally called a Parker Duofold style pen. So this is a actual Parker Duofold from the 1920s. So usually when you talk about a Parker Duofold style pen, you're talking about a cylindrical pen with a cap, one or more cap bands with black finials on the caps and on the end of the barrel, some metal trim, etc. So there's a certain style that these type of pens have. This style is widely copied. Here is a Jinhao Centennial pen that I reviewed just a little while ago. Again, very much evocative of the Parker Duofold style. This pen in particular is meant to emulate a pen that was re-released a few decades ago by Parker called the Duofold Centennial, because basically what they did is what Parker did was replace this ball style clip with the Parker arrow style clip that you can see here that Moonman is emulating pretty well. So again, very sort of typical styling in what is often referred to as a duofold style pen. It is a pretty heavy pen. There's a decent amount of metal in here. It weighs 29 grams, so there's definitely got some heft here. Size-wise, we're talking about a fairly typically sized pen. Here it is sized up with a Lamy Safari and a Pilot Metropolitan, so you can see it's fairly much in line with these very popular pens. It is a screw to uncap pen. It does take 3 turns to unscrew, so that's a little more than many people would perhaps be crazy about, but it is what it is. It posts and posts not deeply, but it does post solidly. Again, that's actually quite typical of even the vintage Duofold. So this Parker, which is nearly 100 years old, posts fairly securely, but it does not post deeply at all. So they kind of even copied that a little bit. It is definitely long enough to use unposted, I would say. I'm a big fan of posting, so I typically do post it. It is a little back heavy when you post it, so I will warn you about that. So let's talk about this material for a minute. This particular finish of the Moonman M600S is called Star Blue. It comes in about 5 different finishes. This is just great because it's got kind of everything going on here. You got golds and browns, you got blues and purples, you got amazing amounts of chatoyancy and pearlescence going on. This is just a very attractive material for this pen, and it looks really good. So that's one of the real nice selling points of this pen, is just sort of the A+ material that it's got going on here. It does have a cap band. It's got a double cap band, in fact, which looks just really nice. Contrasts very well with the typical Parker arrow style clip that it has, and the black finial on the end. The finials on the end of the barrel and on the end of the cap do complement each other quite nicely. The section is nicely sized, somewhat hourglass shaped, and has trim rings on either end of the section. Now the nib, and this is where the big price difference between the M600S comes in and the Moonman M600. The original Moonman M600 featured a Schmidt German-made nib, and again cost considerably more. This pen has a Moonman Chinese nib, which is a very nice nib. I did not see the point in paying extra for a Schmidt nib. I have plenty of pens with Schmidt nibs, so I really didn't need another one, and it wasn't really worth paying the extra money for. So this is a gold tone Moonman nib. It's got the Moonman mountain shape effect. The Moonman logo says Moonman, and a little F for fine, and has the Moonman logo. Nice nib, and an otherwise uninspiring plastic feed. In terms of feel in the hand, it feels pretty good. These threads and this drop off here are really nothing, so to speak of. So it is quite comfortable, and it is quite pleasant to write with, as we'll see. The nib is of course a normal number 6 size nib, so you could swap this nib out with a multitude of possibilities if you so chose to at a future date. To me, the real attractiveness of this pen is just the material. It's just a really super nice, eye-catching, flashy material that I just think looks really super, and I'm really happy with. And I think just looks really good. So it's a $25 pen, pretty good deal. I mean, there are a lot of these sort of, from various manufacturers, there are a lot of these dual fold style pens out there, Indian made pens, Chinese made pens, etc. So this the style of this pen is really widely available. It's really a question of, do you like the Moonman nibs, and are you crazy about this material, or one of the other 3 or 4 different materials that this pen comes in. So there you go. That is about the extent of this pen. But of course, pens were meant to write, and you're going to want to see it write. And I'm going to show you that right now. Okay, folks, what we're writing with here is a Moonman model M600S. And this has a fine steel nib. It is quite fine. So it's kind of what you expect to see in an Asian fine pen. So this is fine, bordering on extra fine. It is quite a fine nib. It does flow pretty good. I'd say it's average in terms of wetness of the ink. It does write well. One thing I will say for this nib, it is very stiff. This nib is basically like a nail. I mean, there is no bounce, no flex, nothing in this nib. This is really a stiff nib, which is fine if that's what you want. I'm just saying, don't expect any kind of bounce or flex or anything like that with this guy. This is definitely a stiff nib. In terms of reverse writing, it does work. It works well. It does go a bit finer, which is kind of nice, and is one of the better reverse writing nibs that I've found in quite some time. But so it does flow well. It's got a good feel to it, etc. But like I said, stiff nib, doesn't bounce or anything like that. So just keep that in mind. But otherwise, a pleasant pen. Again, I've been posting it. It does back weight a bit when you post it. And it's plenty long on postage. So for those of you who are comfortable, I'm always just afraid I'm going to lose the cap, quite frankly. It's just a little paranoid. So that's why I tend to post my pens almost universally whenever it's possible. So that is about all I have to say. Oh my goodness, I didn't even talk about the filling mechanism, did I? Silly me. It's cartridge converter, as you could probably imagine. It does come with the converter. This metal bit in here, and of course the way the back of the barrel is constructed, would preclude eyedroppering, so you're not going to be eyedroppering that here. It is fitted quite nicely. It's branded here. It says Moonman on the internal piece here, so it is pretty nicely made on the internals. But it is cartridge converter. Like I said, no eyedroppering is going to be occurring here. But again, nice pen. And I think it's a good deal for $25. I think there's a lot of pen here for $25 in terms of quality of the materials, build quality, nib, etc. So this is definitely, I think, a good deal for a $25 pen. Anyway, that's about it for this pen. Let's talk about this ink now for a few minutes, shall we? Okay, this ink is Diamine, Maureen. And this is part of Diamine's Iridescink line. It's IRIDESCINK. So that's a little bit of a play on words with iridescent ink. It's a shimmering I'm sorry, it's a sheening ink, and it is an exclusive with Cult Pens in the UK. So that is where this comes from. Don't be turned off of that if you're in the U.S. I've ordered lots and lots of things from Cult Pens. They're a great vendor. They offer free shipping if you go over, I think, 50 British pounds, if I'm not mistaken, and the prices are very, very reasonable. So I order from Cult Pens just like I would any U.S.-based vendor. They're really, really a good. They really offer great service. So just because this is an exclusive to them, don't let that deter you, at least if you're in the U.S. or probably anywhere in Europe as well. So what are we looking at here? So this, like I said, so this is a sheening ink. So it's basically blue with a red sheen. Again, that blue with the red sheen sometimes is a little bit hard to see, like on a finer point pen, etc. So here's a bit of a swab of it, as you can see, it's not a crazy amount of sheen. This isn't like Organic Studio Nitrogen, when it's basically sheening over everything you write, or swab gets a complete sheen over it. So the sheen kind of acts as like a highlight, which I think is really kind of what you want. I'll try to get some more photography here to show the sheen, but that's basically what you're dealing with. Obviously, the amount of sheen you get is going to be highly dependent on the pen and the paper that it's on, and even sort of the lighting conditions and the angle that you're looking at it, and all that kind of stuff all factor in when you're dealing with a sheening ink. So this, again, I would treat this very similar to an ink like Skull and Roses. It's kind of comparable to something like that. That's another Diamine ink, etc. So there's a lot of these blue inks with a red sheen that sheen red to sort of varying degrees. So again, it's really a question of how much sheen do you really want as to what ink do you get. If you want like crazy amounts of sheen, you could get Organic Studio Nitrogen. Also, KWZ Sheen Machine is also a great ink. I'll do a video on that one at some point soon. This ink is, again, if you want something slightly less sheen, this ink, Skull and Roses, etc., are good choices as well. So anyway, that's what this ink looks like on this Rhodia paper. Let's take a quick look at what it looks like on Tomoe River paper. Okay, folks, like we said, this is Diamine. Maureen. And this is, like we said, is a blue with a red sheen. And typically, as is almost always the case, you're going to get better and more sheen on something like this Tomoe River paper than you will on say Rhodia or anything like that. But again, it's going to be really, really dependent on the angle, etc. So I'll do we'll insert some still shots here so you can get a better sense of how that sheen actually will look, because the actual overhead video doesn't really pick up, isn't really the best for picking up the actual sheen of the ink. But anyway, I think that might just about do it for this episode. As always, I thank you so much for watching. If you're not a subscriber, I'd like to encourage you to become one. Keep those thumbs up coming. Leave us a comment or two. They're always appreciated. And as always, until we see each other again, have a great day. Bye-bye.